Before the gods of Olympus reigned supreme, the world was ruled by the Titans. Ancient, colossal beings whose power rivaled that of the very cosmos. Their dominion was vast and unchallenged, stretching over the lands and seas, from the depths of Tartarus to the peaks of Mount Othrys. The air was thick with their presence, the sky reverberated with their laughter and fury. As the eldest children of Gaia and Uranus, the Titans were not mere rulers. They were the personification of primal forces. Among them was Kronos, the youngest yet most ambitious of the 12. He was the embodiment of time, relentless, unyielding. With a sickle forged from the marrow of the earth, he deposed his father Uranus and claimed the throne of the universe. Under Kronos' rule, the Titans prospered, yet the seeds of discord were already sown. Kronos was hailed as the king of the Titans, but even he could not escape the whispers of fate, which spoke of a prophecy looming like a dark shadow over his reign. Kronos, the cunning usurper, was no simple heir to the cosmic throne. His ascent was marked by violence, a betrayal that would echo through eternity. Guided by his mother Gaia, he took the sickle she crafted and ambushed Uranus. The sky shuddered as he struck, and the blood of the heavens spilled upon the earth, giving birth to the Furies and the giants. With Uranus vanquished, Kronos seized power. But his reign was far from secure. Paranoia clung to him like a shadow, for he knew the prophecy spoke of his downfall. This prophecy foretold that one of his own children would rise up against him and overthrow his rule, much like he had done to his own father. Fear consumed him. In a desperate attempt to outmaneuver fate, Kronos made a fateful decision. Each time his wife Rhea bore a child, he swallowed them whole. Yet, destiny is a tide impossible to turn. In the darkness of a hidden cave on the island of Crete, a child was born. Zeus, the youngest son of Kronos and Rhea. The one destined to fulfill the prophecy. Rhea, heartbroken by the loss of her children, devised a plan to save her newborn. With the help of loyal nymphs and the earth itself, she hid Zeus away, replacing him with a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes. Kronos, oblivious to the ruse, swallowed the stone, believing it to be his son. Meanwhile, Zeus grew in secret, nurtured by the divine goat Amalthea and protected by the fierce Cretes, who clashed their weapons to drown out his cries. In the shadowy depths of Crete, Zeus' power burgeoned, his laughter mingling with the echoes of the prophecy. The world was unaware, but the storm was gathering. Soon, the heavens themselves would tremble. The prophecy was whispered among the winds, carried through the pantheon of gods and the ears of mortals alike. It was a tale of inevitable downfall, a cycle as old as creation itself. The Fates, daughters of night, wove its strands with threads spun from starlight. Kronos, despite his power, could not silence the echo of their prophecy. In the halls of Mount Othrys, his sleep was haunted by visions, a sun rising from obscurity to challenge his throne. The Titans, once so invincible, now sensed the shifting tides of destiny. Rumors crept like shadows, sowing doubt and fear. Would Kronos defy the prophecy? Could power hold back the hand of fate? Time marched onward. And in its relentless march, Zeus was growing stronger, biding his time. Kronos, though mighty, was tormented by insidious fears. The prophecy played on an endless loop in his mind, each word a blade cutting into his peace. He isolated himself, suspicion turning his once proud court into a realm of silence and shadows. His eyes, once filled with the fire of dominance, now darted with the unease of a hunted beast. In solitude, Kronos pondered his next move. Could he preempt the prophecy, or was he merely delaying the inevitable? The shadows lengthened, his kingdom teetering on the brink of chaos. Meanwhile, his subjects, the Titans, began to murmur in discontent, their faith in Kronos wavering as the aura of inevitability settled over the land. The air was thick with tension, a palpable stillness before the storm. As Kronos plotted, Zeus prepared. Destined to clash with his father in a battle that would reshape the cosmos. But that is a story for the next chapter. In the shadow of Mount Othrys, where the air carried the scent of scorched earth and despair, Kronos sat upon his throne. The Titan king, draped in robes of night, exerted an iron grip over the cosmos. His eyes, cold and unyielding, surveyed the realm he had conquered through betrayal and blood. It was an age marked by fear, a fear that seeped into the bones of gods and mortals alike. Kronos ruled with a hand that knew no mercy, wielding power through a blend of cunning strategy and oppressive force. He crushed any dissent with the weight of his terrible might, employing his Titan siblings as enforcers of his cruel decrees. To question him was to invite ruin. The heavens were silent, as if holding their breath, waiting for the next unpredictable storm of his wrath. But even amidst the terror, whispers traveled through the winds, whispers of discontent, growing ever louder beneath the surface of subjugation. Could a king who ruled by fear alone keep his throne secure forever? As his once loyal subjects began to cast weary glances at the shadows, the seeds of rebellion silently took root. Under Kronos' rule, the lesser gods found themselves shackled, their divine wills bent to serve the Titans' insatiable hunger for dominance. The realms they once governed were stripped away, remade into grim vestiges of their former glory. Gone were the days of light and prosperity, in their place stood a world where the heavens themselves wept. Kronos had little time for dreams. His vision was one of absolute control. He forbade the birth of new gods, fearing prophecy that one day, his own child would overthrow him. And so, in his paranoia, he consumed his offspring as soon as they were born, swallowing them whole to prevent their rise. But somewhere amid the shadows, a spark of hope flickered, refusing to be extinguished. The gods whispered amongst themselves, hatching plans in secret spaces where Kronos' gaze could not reach. From the depths of their suffering, a yearning for freedom began to smolder, fanned by the knowledge that such tyranny could not reign unchallenged forever. Amidst the fear and oppression, one figure remained determined to defy Kronos' tyranny: Rhea, the queen of the Titans and sister-wife of the tyrant himself. She watched with growing horror as her husband devoured their children, one after another, each swallowed into the abyss of his insatiable fear. But Rhea had resolved that the cycle of horror would end. In the heart of the night, beneath a sky heavy with stars, Rhea devised a plan. She sought guidance from Gaia, the earth itself, whose wisdom stretched as deep as the roots of the world. Together, they conspired to save her next child, the one prophesied to bring down Kronos. Rhea's resolve was like iron. She secured a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes, a decoy to satiate Kronos' monstrous hunger. And when the time came, she fled to the island of Crete, cradling her newborn, the hidden Zeus, whispering lullabies that promised a future reclaimed from tyranny. Here, far from Kronos' reach, the seeds of his downfall were gently sown. On the verdant slopes of Mount Ida, hidden from the prying eyes of the Titan king, Zeus grew. The nymphs nurtured him, their hymns mingling with the rustling leaves and the whispers of the wind. This was a world apart from the tyranny of Kronos, a secret enclave where the child of prophecy could thrive. Under the watchful gaze of his surrogate caretakers, Zeus was taught the arts of war and wisdom, his strength honed by the rugged terrain of Crete. He learned the stories of the gods, their struggles, their hopes, and the rancor that filled the skies above. As Zeus matured, so too did his awareness of the world he would one day inherit. The whispers of injustice reached even here, carried by the winds that traversed the seas. Zeus understood his destiny, and unlike his father, he welcomed it. In his heart, a fierce determination burned, a desire to end the cycle of fear and bring justice to those who languished beneath Kronos' shadow. As Zeus grew in strength and wisdom, so did the murmurings of rebellion cascade through the land. The gods, long oppressed under Kronos' reign, found within themselves a bravery that had been dormant for too long. They gathered in secret, sharing tales of suffering and whispers of hope that had been carefully guarded. In hidden coves and moonlit groves, alliances were forged. The promise of a future free from Kronos' tyranny inspired courage among the deities who had once trembled in the shadow of the Titan king. And at the heart of this burgeoning resistance stood Zeus, the hidden child grown strong, a beacon of change. But could they truly challenge a tyrant as fearsome as Kronos? The time for silence was ending, and a storm was on the horizon. As the gods prepared to rise, the cosmos itself seemed to tremble in anticipation of the upheaval to come. An upheaval that would determine the fate of both gods and mortals alike. The wind howled through the cavernous halls of Mount Olympus, where shadows loomed long and ominous. Zeus stood tall, the gleam of determination in his eyes, as he surveyed the vast world below, once his father's realm. His voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the sacred peaks, calling upon those who had suffered under Kronos' tyrannical reign. This was not just a call to arms. It was a call to destiny. The Olympians, hidden in the forests and caves, felt a stirring deep within, an urge to break free from the chains of fear that had bound them for so long. Zeus, having grown under the nurturing care of Gaia, knew it was time to reclaim the heavens. Like the crackle of a storm gathering strength, the murmurs of rebellion began to rise. Among the scattered demigods and exiled immortals, there was talk of hope, of a new dawn. Of revolution. But could they truly overthrow a titan such as Kronos? Deep within the bowels of the earth, in a realm forgotten by time, the Titanomachy roared, a sound of thunder that seemed to shake the very roots of the mountains. These were the hundred-handed giants, imprisoned by Kronos, their immense power feared by the tyrant. Zeus, with a heart that beat for freedom, sought them out. He descended into the depths, the air growing colder, the darkness almost suffocating. Yet, within those shadows, he found allies. The Titanomachy, with their 100 arms and 50 heads, were ready for vengeance. Their eyes gleamed with a fierce light, a promise of retribution. Zeus' words were simple, yet potent, freedom for your loyalty. And in that moment, an unbreakable bond was forged in the darkness, a pact that would stir the very core of the Titanomachy. In the twilight of the gods, one titan stood apart, Prometheus, the foreseer. Unlike his brethren, his heart ached for the plight of mortals and the suffering they endured under Kronos. With piercing eyes that could gaze beyond the veil of time, he saw a future where gods and men could coexist. Prometheus, in secret, met with Zeus, sharing his wisdom and the art of strategy. "Knowledge is your greatest weapon," he whispered, his voice like the wind weaving through ancient pines. While others spoke of brute force, Prometheus saw the power of cunning, of foresight. His counsel became a beacon for Zeus, guiding him through the labyrinth of uncertainty. But what price would Prometheus pay for his betrayal? As he walked the lonely path, caught between titans and Olympians, questions loomed in the air. Could foresight truly change destiny? In the grand halls of Kronos, tension crackled like a living thing. Whispers of discontent drifted through the air, as murmurs of Zeus' rebellion reached even the most loyal of the titans. Rhea, the silent mother, watched her husband's paranoia grow, his grip tightening on the throne with desperate fingers. The titans, once a united front, now glanced over their shoulders with suspicion. Some feared the unknown future that loomed like a storm on the horizon, while others saw it as an opportunity. Young titans, restless and ambitious, pondered their allegiance. Was Kronos' rule as unbreakable as it seemed, or were there cracks beneath the surface? In the shadowed corners of the hall, alliances shifted like sand in the wind, and the allegiances of tomorrow remained uncertain. Could a kingdom built on fear withstand the promise of hope? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in hues of crimson and gold, the lines were drawn, both in the sands of the earth and the hearts of its denizens. Kronos' armies, vast and formidable, gathered under the banner of the Titan King, while the forces of the Olympians rallied under Zeus' leadership. This was not merely a conflict of might, but a clash of ideals. The earth trembled with anticipation as warriors prepared for battle, the air thick with a tension that seemed to sing with the promise of glory or doom. Shields gleamed in the dying light, swords were raised in silent vows of allegiance, and the ground itself seemed to breathe with the weight of history about to unfold. As the first stars pierced the night, both sides knew that tomorrow would mark the beginning of an epic or reckoning. Yet, as dawn approached, an unforeseen twist would turn the tides. What shadow lay beyond the horizon? The answer awaited. The sun rose over the battlefield for 6 relentless days, casting its unforgiving light upon a land ravaged by chaos. The earth itself seemed to tremble under the weight of clashing titans, as if it too was caught in their colossal struggle. On one side, the mighty titans, led by Kronos, their leader and father to the very gods they faced. His eyes, dark as storm clouds, surveyed his army with grim determination. They stood tall, their massive forms casting shadows long enough to cover valleys. On the other, the Olympians, youthful and fierce, brimming with the energy of gods who knew they must either conquer or fall. Zeus stood at their helm, lightning crackling from his fingertips, illuminating his face with a godly wrath. Above, the skies swirled in their elemental fury, a cosmic backdrop to this primal clash. Rock shattered, seas boiled, and the heavens themselves seemed to cry out at the violence below. No whispered legends could do justice to the scale of this conflict. This was a war for the ages. In the midst of chaos, Zeus was not merely a warrior, he was a tactician, a master of strategy. He knew the Titans' power lay not just in their strength, but in their unity he sought to fracture. With every bolt of lightning, he aimed not only to strike but to separate, to confuse, to force the Titans into disarray. He used the terrain to his advantage, leading the Olympians through hidden paths, striking with precision and retreating like shadows in the night. His commands echoed across the battlefield, sharp and clear, as he orchestrated an intricate dance of war. Yet, it was not without cost. Each decision was a terrible calculus of sacrifice. For every field gained, there was a loved one lost, a friend fallen. And still, he pressed on. Relentless. A god driven by the knowledge that failure meant oblivion. Could even Zeus break the Titans' iron unity? Or would his plans falter under the weight of their ancient power? Yet, the indomitable Kronos was not to be underestimated. Time itself, his ally and his bane, ebbed and flowed around him. Desperation edged his every move, as his once unshakable empire crumbled before the relentless onslaught of the Olympians. He felt the power of ages slipping through his fingers like sand. With each passing day, his grip on power weakened, his warriors faltered. His booming voice, once enough to command legions, now echoed with a hint of uncertainty. In a desperate maneuver, he summoned the storms, drawing upon the most ancient magics, attempting to drown the Olympians in a deluge of fury. But the gods of Olympus were not so easily cowed. Even as torrents fell from the heavens, they pushed onward, their spirits unbroken. Every defeat was a rallying cry, every setback, a reason to fight harder. Could Kronos find a way to quell this tide? Or was the end inevitable? In the shadows of war, betrayal lurked. Atlas, the Titan with the world upon his shoulders, was caught in a web of loyalty and survival. He had stood by Kronos, his allegiance unquestioned, yet doubt gnawed at him, a soldier's heart torn between duty and the whispers of self-preservation. As the tides of battle turned, Atlas began to see the futility of fighting against the gods of Olympus. In a fateful decision, he chose to betray his brethren, seeking terms with Zeus. The very act of treachery sent ripples through the ranks of Titans, sowing confusion, breaking their once unbreakable chain. What drove Atlas to this path? Fear? Ambition? Or the knowledge that the world, forever held aloft by his shoulders, was slipping away? The betrayal was the crack. The fissure that Zeus needed. But would it truly be enough to turn the tide? As the sixth day drew to a close, Olympus stood victorious, its pillars gleaming with the light of a new dawn. The Titans were defeated, their power shattered by betrayal and relentless assault. Zeus, with the strength of his allies, had led the Olympians to triumph, casting down the old gods to claim the future. The air was thick with the scent of victory, mingled with the pungent aroma of smoke and sweat. The cries of the defeated echoed through the mountains, a reminder of the price of ambition and the cost of dreams. Yet, while victory was won, the consequences lay heavy. The dawn brought no peace to Zeus. Only the weight of a leader burdened with new responsibilities. But beneath this triumph lay a secret, a deeper conflict yet unresolved. What shadows lurked in this newfound peace? What trials awaited the gods of Olympus, now that the Titans were no more? The echoes of the battle still lingered in the air, like whispers of a great storm that had finally passed. The once mighty Titans, who had dared to defy their children, now stood defeated. Zeus, with his siblings by his side, surveyed the aftermath of the Titanomachy, a realm shattered and a world forever changed. Bound by chains forged in the heart of Tartarus, the Titans were led away. Their cries were a distant roar, echoing through the chasm, never to be heard by mortal ears again. But what fate awaited them? Kronos, fallen and humbled, was consigned to the depths of Tartarus, a prison of shadow and despair, from which no Titan could ever hope to escape. Even in defeat, the Titans held power, but it was now locked away, kept under eternal watch by the fierce Centimanes, whose 100 hands would guard the gates of their prison. Zeus' justice was swift, yet his judgment was intricate, for he knew the Titans were not mere foes, they were kin. And so, the cosmic balance shifted, the age of the Titans ended, setting the stage for a new era in the heavens above. In the aftermath of war, the heavens themselves seemed to hold their breath. Olympus, the seat of divinity, awaited a new sovereign. Zeus, the Stormbringer, stood amidst the ruins of divine ambition, his eyes cast toward the throne. The air crackled with a divine energy, as if the cosmos sensed the shifting of power. At that moment, a new order was decreed. Zeus ascended to the throne as king of gods, his rule proclaimed not through loud decrees, but by the silent agreement of the divine assembly. His siblings, Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Hestia, and Hades, stood beside him, each assuming their rightful place in this new hierarchy. Zeus was not just a ruler of skies, he was a king of wisdom and might. But what kind of king would Zeus be? Would he rule with the same ambition as Kronos, or would he forge a path of justice and order, where the gods would govern the mortal world with grace? Only time would reveal the true nature of his reign. In the wake of destruction, there arose a need to rebuild not just the physical realms, but the very structure of the cosmos. Sections of the heavens had been torn asunder, lands scarred by divine conflict. Under Zeus' decree, the gods began the monumental task of reconstruction. Like artisans of old, they crafted anew the world, breathing life into rivers, raising mountains, and painting the skies with stars. Poseidon tamed the seas, their fury replaced by serene currents. Demeter sowed the fields with seeds of renewal, promising bountiful harvests for future generations. The cosmos, once fractured, was now whole again. Yet, the scars of the Titanomachy remained, reminder etched into the fabric of creation. How does one rebuild after such a battle? Perhaps it is in the imperfections that the true beauty lies. In the resilience of a world reborn. The Titanomachy was more than just a war, it marked the birth of a new cosmic order. The echoes of this conflict reverberated through history, shaping myths and legends that would be told for millennia. The legacy of the Titans and their fall became a powerful tale of ambition, hubris, and rebirth. It reminded mortals and gods alike of the delicate balance of power and the cyclical nature of time. In every storm, in the rumble of the earth, and in the silence of the night, the memory of the Titanomachy lingers, a testament to the enduring spirit of creation itself. But what lesson does this myth impart? Is it a cautionary tale of power unchecked, or a story of resilience and triumph? The answer lies both in the stars and in our hearts. And so, dear viewer, the tale of the Titanomachy comes to an end, but the echoes of its legacy continue to call to us. As you ponder the cosmic battle and the birth of a new era, remember that this story is but one thread in the vast tapestry of myth and legend. The Myth Archive holds countless more stories, each a gateway into the ancient world. Subscribe now and journey deeper into the archives. Uncover the whispered secrets of ancient gods, the forgotten paths of heroes, and the worlds that lie between myth and reality. Step into the ancient world with the Myth Archive, where stories live forever.